right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the November 12th, 2024 LSP board meeting. I'm Diane Baxter, Chair of the LSP board. As always, the board encourages interactive participation. If a member of the public would like to participate in the meeting, please type a question into the chat. I encourage all board members to turn their cameras on and ensure your cell phone is on silent mode. Okay, I'll now call roll call to establish who is here and determine if we have quorum. David Austin,
Yes.
Gail Batchelder,
Yes.
Kathy Campbell,
Present.
Greg Ellis,
Yes.
Kirk Franklin, Patrick Heron,
Present?
Greg McBride, Paul McKinley,
Here.
Tammy Smith,
Present.
and Diane Baxter present. Okay, so we have a quorum. Chris, in addition to you,
There are 3 members of the public online, Brian Roden, Christy Leffer, and Wendy Rundle.
all right, thank you. Okay, at this time, I'd like to turn it over to David Austin or Gail Batchelder for the Continuing Education Committee meeting.
Sure.
Hey, Dave.
I'll start the meeting. It's at 12:03. I assume there's no announcements or changes to the agenda. Any comments or edits to the meeting minutes from last month? Motion to approve.
So moved.
Move. Second.
We have to vote it all.
Yeah.
So yes is approving the meeting minutes from last month. Paul?
Yes.
Paul?
Yep.
Yeah. Patrick?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
David's a yes. Craig?
Abstain.
Diane?
Yes.
Jamie? Yes. And Gail?
Yes.
Great. We have 4 new course offering requests and a course reapproval request and a question about the conference last month and someone attending. So the first request, both of these are from, first 2 are from EBC and they're both passed. But they still are applying for these.
Yeah, they submitted before the course. They submitted their request before the course took place, but yeah, these 2
Oh, then they
courses are
took
taking
place
place.
before the meeting.
But after our last meeting, for the course.
Okay, so the first one was a live webinar in October, 1.5 technical credits, back to basics PFAS chemistry 101. I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion from the public or board? Yes is approving. Paul,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
David's a yes. Craig,
Yes.
Diane,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
and Gail.
Yes.
The second request is also from the EBC. It was a live webinar on Halloween, 1.5 technical credits, PFAS, different topic. Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? A yes is approving. Paul,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
David's a yes. Craig,
Yes.
Diane,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
and Gail.
Yes.
And Greg is here also, yes.
Hi, Greg.
Hi.
The last 2 are from the LSPA. The first one is request for live webinar and future on demand. Membership meeting in November, 1 technical credit. I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussions? A yes is approving. Paul,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
David's a yes, Craig,
abstain,
Diane,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
Gail,
yes,
and Greg.
yes,
And then the last request, once again, from the LSPA, 1 technical credits on air monitoring and asbestos sites, air testing, live webinar, and future on-demand format, 1 credit. I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussions from the public or the board? Yes is approving. Paul,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
David's a yes, Craig,
yes,
Diane,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
Gail,
yes,
and Greg.
yes,
The next item is a course reapproval because of an instructor change. Which is fine with me.
Motion to approve.
second,
We have to go through the roll call for reapproval, right?
Yeah.
So a yes is approving the reapproval. Paul,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
David's a yes, Craig,
yes,
Diane,
Yes.
Gail,
yes,
Jamie,
Yes.
and Greg.
yes,
The last item, you want to discuss?
Sure. We got a request from AEHS for guidance about an LSP who attended a webinar at the conference last month. It was a live webinar, it was a 4-hour webinar. It was that Monday, October 21st. The LSP registered or signed up for the course about 20 minutes before it started. And you'll see in your packet the email that went back and forth between the LSP and the course provider. The course provider didn't see the registration come in. She was busy setting up the room for the live webinar or in the in-person class. And then about 20 minutes after the webinar started, she saw the registration, sent the link to the LSP, and the LSP joined pretty much immediately. So, and we do have the regulation about 4-hour classes. You need to attend 100% of the time to get any credit. So we wanted, or she wanted to know if she could issue the attendance form or not.
Was it 4 hours or less?
Yeah, so it's the 1 to 4 hour classes. It's 100% attendance.
So you missed 20 minutes out of a 4-hour course. Pretty much because of the provider,
Right.
who acknowledged that they need to cut off registrations sooner next time around.
Right.
Yeah.
And the email chain that we got demonstrates that the person was trying to reach out to the course provider to get the link. So it was through no fault of their own.
I think they should give out the certificate for 4 hours for attendance.
I agree. I
I
do too.
agree.
Make a motion to approve the request of AHS. Do we need to?
I would, I think.
I second it. Any further discussions? So a yes is approving the request to give full credit. Paul,
I'm a yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Craig,
yes,
Diane,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
Gail,
yes,
and Greg.
yes.
That wraps up the meeting. The next meeting date is to be determined.
Yeah, the board meeting, we're gonna go through the calendar for
Right.
next year and discuss future dates this year. And also for the course providers, we'll get the attendance forms out within a day or two, and the website will be updated with the new courses listed.
So it's 12:11. End of the meeting.
Okay, next we have the Professional Conduct Committee meeting. Can I turn it over to you, Jamie?
Indeed. We'll call to order the professional conduct committee meeting. Are there any announcements or changes to the agenda today?
We do have an announcement. Did you want to make an announcement about Patrick?
I was gonna make it in the.
Oh, all right, then, no, we'll make it later.
Okay. Any comments on the draft minutes from October 8th?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second,
Okay. Yes, is to approve the minutes as is. David,
Yes.
Diane,
yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Gail,
Yes.
Craig,
Abstain.
Greg,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Jamie's a yes. Minutes are approved. To old business, turn it over for review of the case list.
Okay, I'll do that. So case number 105C07, we're still waiting to hear from the appeals court. Number 208C03, the ACO agreement with the LSP was fully signed on October 30th. So that case is basically done. So I think I'll remove it from the list after today. Number 312C01 still is for the LSP the LSP board at some point to decide what to do next. Number 418C01, we had an interview, the CRT had an interview with the LSP on Friday, and we will be moving forward to try to resolve that case. And number 518C02, we need to set up a CRT meeting, which I am in a position to do in the very near future now. So the delay was on my part, so we'll have more on that next time.
For the one that was closed, has the public notice been?
That won't happen until after the date that the surrender takes place.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
And for 05C07, have we got any indication of when we might see the decision on that?
No, I had asked before our meeting last month, when we discussed it, and the Assistant Attorney General, I think she had said in her experience, it might be like 4 to 6 months, if I'm remembering correctly. So it may be anytime, I don't know, because it was in September, right?
September.
Yeah, so it might still be a few months off, but depending on what, what else they have. Before they issue a decision.
Just not for nothing, but I continue to be very happy how short this list is.
I'm trying to get it empty. Buying new ones.
Okay, any other questions or comments on the active cases? Okay, hearing none, is there any new business?
Nope.
No? Good. Next meeting TBD. And with that, we'll adjourn at 1:15.
All right, and that brings us to the board meeting. I'll call to order 12:15. All right, I have one announcement today. I regret to announce that Patrick Heron has submitted his resignation from the board. Today will be Patrick's last meeting. I and the board staff are sorry to see Patrick go, but thank you, Patrick, for your dedicated service over the last 3.5 or so years. Patrick filled in and has filled an environmental seat on the board, so we'll have an additional vacancy for now.
Well, I'll just say also how grateful I am to have been able to serve on the board and learn so much from everybody and witness how dedicated all of you are to the LSP profession. So thank you for having me. I've learned a tremendous amount.
Well, thank you for serving. We appreciate it. And we've learned, actually, I was just thinking today how nice it was to have you on the board because you added a perspective that we certainly can always use.
Well, thank you. And I also want to give kudos to the leadership of the LSP board here. I just feel like in the last year, we've had a really tremendous sort of efficiency and decision-making. And so kudos to the team here for moving us all along as a board and making us more effective.
All right. Any changes to the agenda? Say no. Review of the draft minutes. Any comments on the minutes from last month? If not, I move to approve the minutes.
Second.
All right.
Wendy said, "Thank you, Patrick. The LSPA appreciates your volunteer contributions." Just wanted to share that.
Very good. Okay, so yes is to approve the draft agenda. David,
Yes.
Gail,
Yes,
Kathy,
Yes.
Craig,
Abstain.
Patrick,
Yes?
Greg,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
and Diane is a yes. Okay, the next section is licensing of applicants. Matt, would you like to discuss the new?
Well, this is for the existing applicant that we set up the ARP last month, ARP 341. For Zachary Reynolds, number 8206. ARP is Kathy, Jamie, and Paul. We're still waiting the last professional reference form. So until we get that, we really can't do anything. So once we get that, I'll let the ARP know and we'll have time to review everything and evaluate the entire application.
All right. Any other applicants? We have to set up a panel.
There's one for item 7. Maybe we should bring that person up then, or we can do it now.
Okay, that's the future. We can wait till then.
Okay.
All right, let's see. Renewal applications. Chris, could you bring up the dockets? Okay, so the first docket, I think, is the sort of standard case of people who were needed to renew by 10:30 and did so. So their expiration is 10/30/2027.
Motion to approve docket number 1.
Second.
All right, yes is to approve. David,
Yes.
Gail,
yes,
Kathy,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes?
Greg,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
and Diane is a yes. Okay, the second is people who've requested a 90-day extension.
Motion to approve docket 2.
I'll second. All right, David,
Yes.
Gail,
yes,
Kathy,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes?
Greg,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
and Diane is a yes. Okay, the third docket is one person. It was, this person received a 90-day extension, but didn't quite get the paperwork in time. Paperwork did ultimately come in before this meeting, so, and everything is there, so the new expiration date is pushed out to the next period, so that's why the 1/30/2028 is the renewal date for this person. Any questions on that? All right, motion to approve.
Second.
All right, David,
Yes.
Gail,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Craig,
yes,
Patrick,
Yes.
Greg,
yes,
Paul,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
and Diana's a yes. And finally, renewal docket 4 is a group that received 90-day extension and now have completed all requirements for renewal. So the expiration date reverts back to what their original would have been, so 7/30/2027.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, David,
Yes.
Gail,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Craig,
yes,
Patrick,
Yes.
Greg,
yes,
Paul,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
and Diana's a yes. All right, that's all the dockets. Renewal status report, Matt?
Yeah, just an overall summary of the October group. There was 21 LSPs on the roster for October 30th. All but 2 either renewed or have 90-day extensions.
Right. Any other renewal related matters? Okay. So that moves us to other licensing related matters. Matt?
Yeah, so this is where we have a new applicant, sent an application over the weekend. Name is William Brochu and works at GES. We haven't received any professional reference forms yet, and we're still kind of going through the application. But I think without having a meeting in December, we should assemble an ARP to look through it and be ready for the January meeting. So looking for volunteers to serve on this ARP.
And since we haven't met yet on the other outstanding one, I could do the second one as well, the other 2.
So the only question I have is this applicant applied back in 2019. And Greg, you were on that ARP, if I'm not mistaken. Would it make sense for you to be on this one, or should we have 3 new faces?
I'm happy to be on it again, yes.
Or a mix?
Probably doesn't matter, right?
Okay. Okay, so Greg, you'll join this one again?
Correct.
Okay. Jamie, you're on doing this one.
I can do one if you need to.
I'd be efficient.
Will that
If
get
you
you
need
want to
it-
join?
I can do it if you need a non-LSP, sure.
Jamie, thank you, and I will be in touch once we get everything together for you to review.
Great. All right, Natasha, could you give us the inactive status report?
Sure. So currently, right now, we have 414 who are active. For annual fees, we're still currently at the 4 who remain on revoked status.
Right. Thank you. Exam, Matt, could you update us on the exam committee?
Yes, so the exam committee meets twice per month, we recently met October 16th, and then last week. But the committee continues to revise the existing exam questions, prepares new questions for review. The goal is to revise the current exam to reflect the new MCP changes, generate a fourth exam. Next meeting will be Wednesday, November 20th.
Right. Continuing educational committee report. David?
Sure, we met today, we approved 4 new courses offerings. We reapproved one existing course, and we approved a request for course seminar attendance. And we're meeting sometime in the future, again.
Guess we need a motion to approve the,
No, we're all here.
oh, that's right. Can't do that.
Jamie, could you give us a professional conduct committee report?
Yeah, we met and we just simply reviewed the active case list, no new business.
All right. That brings us to regulations. Terry?
Okay. So there wasn't a regulation committee meeting since we last met, so there's nothing to report. So today is to figure out how best to discuss the proposed regulatory amendments and the related forms. Because everyone got them now and could open them, I presume. So I don't know what people think. Do you want to talk about things broadly, thematically? Do you want to go page by page through the draft regs to see if anybody has any comments on specific changes? If people have comments on specific changes, they couldn't also bring them up and we could just look at those comments. I'm not sure the best way to proceed. I don't know if people have thoughts on that.
I think going edit by edit is gonna take forever and a lot of them are repetitive. So I think I would recommend a different approach than that, I guess. Maybe going through to see if anyone has particular comments, maybe
Could I just-
and
could I-
thematically.
Could I just ask, many of these edits we've already talked about.
Right.
So maybe we could focus on the newer ones that we haven't.
Well,
talked about.
the subcommittee talked about them, but not the full board.
Yeah.
So that's sort of where we are. And at the end, like, once everybody feels like we've discussed enough, the board has to vote. That, if they're in agreement with the proposal, and then once we do that, then we can move them along. Does anybody have any specific comments on specific changes?
No, I don't at all. There's 2 comments to address that you had, but I
Yes.
don't have any specific comments, but it's.
So-
Go person by person.
Yeah, or anybody can speak if they do.
I had a couple of things noted that I think were more like questions.
Oh, we could talk about those then, and then anybody that has them, and then I guess we could just then, when there aren't any more specific issues or questions about specific amendments, we could talk about them generally, like thematically, making sure everyone's in agreement, and then I guess if everyone's willing to vote on them today, we could do that.
Maybe go through the thematic changes first, so we can sort of bring everyone
Sure.
up to speed on a summary and then.
Sure, I will, before I start doing that, I will say, last month, there was the issue of, the polling question. And there was concern that the way that the amendments are drafted, that, it said that people that attend the class, a live webinar have to complete all the polling questions that are presented while they're in attendance. And there was some concern about what does that mean, and what if somebody just can't answer a question in time, like they run out of time or whatever. And so I put in some suggested language. Let me find that. I have to find it. I'm sorry. And the request was to come up with maybe some language, that gives the board some flexibility if there are unique situations.
He's trying to
Yeah, I'm trying to
get
find
it
it.
screen. And then I think it's 3.097. I should have said 309, 3.097.
What page is that?
It's, the first time it comes up is on page 26.
Ah, yeah.
Under, so it's subsection 5, general course requirements. And then one proposal was to add a subsection I there. Subsection G. The board may at its discretion modify the requirement for an attendee to complete polling questions presented while the attendee is in attendance at a live webinar. I put that as a way to sort of go, oh, well, the board, if there's a unique situation, the board can modify the requirement. But to me, if we add something like this, I think we're inviting waivers. And the other, when I thought about it after the meeting last time, if we say that the attendee has to complete the polling questions, we can, in an FAQ guidance document or whatever, once the amendments are done, we can explain what we mean by complete, because we have the right to issue a guidance document that fully explains our understanding of a term. So we could say that we think complete means that you answer the question in the time provided, or if somebody doesn't answer the time provided, but gives a note to the instructor by the end of the class, that will suffice. So we could handle it that way, and that would be something that would be published on our website. We'd let course providers know that that's important, that somebody's allowed to do that. So if somebody does that, then they can issue the attendance form, whatever. So we could flesh that out later, and I think that might be a reasonable way to handle it.
Makes sense.
Yeah, because the other thing I thought about was there are other situations like the one that came up today where the board, allows deviation, their discretion in enforcement of policy. If we bring up this one, we're still gonna have other situations,
Right.
Yeah, but I think it is good to have some sort of guidance out there, just so we don't get, one of these every single meeting, people understand that that's the practice, and if somebody misses one at the beginning of the class, they can answer it later.
And also, if the course provider makes that clear in the course materials for somebody taking the class, it sort of puts the onus on the person taking the class to send that email, to say, oh, I missed that, I ran out of time. And that, as opposed to somebody who just walks away during the class and doesn't take any of the polling questions,
Yeah.
So, yeah, that would be something that they would know, an attendee would know they need to do during the class, so.
So I had a
I
thought.
think that would handle it.
So this G would not be.
I would take that out
Oh,
then.
yeah, I'm in agreement.
Wendy just posted the LSPA supports Terry's suggestion to issue guidance Q&A rather than include discretion language in the regs. Also easier to update the guidance QA at later dates.
Yeah.
Sure. I think Kathy had a.
So along that line, and I like where we're going with this, is maybe not being so nitty gritty down in the weeds with this, but where it is right now under D, will provide certification that the attendee has completed the polling questions that were presented, period. Because there may be a time, like if somebody walks away and misses a polling question, they've also missed the material that supports the polling question. So
Right.
it's not like it gets easier to answer the polling question afterwards. So it's not like people are gonna be like, well, I'm not even gonna attend at all, and then expect to be able to answer the polling questions, which are specific to the material. So I guess we're letting the enemy, the great be the enemy of the good, and being able to just say, maybe I'm not saying this the right way, but just answer the polling questions that are presented during the webinar, period.
Unless it's a 8-hour course, in which case they don't have to be present for the whole thing.
Well,
So
they
it
want
doesn't
credit-
work. That's why I think it has to
But they'll
be while
want
you're
credit for the
in.
whole thing. So I think there has to be some way for the course provider to be able to certify that they have either answered all the questions or were present, even though they couldn't answer the questions.
Right,
We don't want to give credit when people just walk away.
right. Right. I mean, you're not supposed to be walking away during the webinar, realistically. It's more, I think the concern when we talked about it was more that, let's say we've all been in a position where we didn't quite get to press the button in time.
Mhm.
But we watched the polling question come up and then we were trying to think about it, it disappeared. But I do think there's a problem with just saying you have to say in attendance, because again, for an 8-hour course, an 8-hour webinar, you don't have to be in attendance for the whole thing. Or a
As long as
6-hour
you're-
one,
As long as
anything
you're
over
comfortable
4.
not getting credit for the whole thing.
Right. Well, I mean, that's the thing. You recognize that you're not once you don't answer any of the further polling questions, or we could put in the guidance that if a person isn't going to attend the whole thing, they need to write something in to the provider saying, I only attended this much.
Nobody's going to do that.
Yeah.
Realistically, you're supposed to. I mean, you have to.
They have to.
With the
attend
software,
attendance.
they can see who's dialing in and out,
Right.
so they can go back. And also, if someone steps away and misses a polling question, they'll never know they missed a polling question, probably, and that'll be pretty obvious. If it times out on you, and this is, I think we're talking about, and you can't get your answer in on time, you can quickly, in the chat, notify, hey, this is I missed that question, this is what I would have picked, or I'm here, but I missed the question, or like you said, an email before the class is over that I missed the polling question. But I think if someone steps away and misses a polling question, it'll be obvious.
It'll be obvious to the course provider.
Yeah.
Because they will
Yeah, and
know
they're
that.
the ones that are gonna, monitor really.
So harkening back to the original discussion, I think the concern was that if a polling question was missed, we didn't want to get in the nitty gritty or allow, so long as the guidance allows some flexibility to get over that hurdle that, if there was if somebody stepped away, or I think as the discussion went, if there was some sort of technical issue, glitch, and somebody wasn't able to answer the question, that there was at least a latitude in the guidance to be able to, give the person credit. I mean, we had a kind of a similar example today with somebody showed up late and wasn't able to sort of fully attend, and we were able to provide them that guidance, or latitude. So long as the guidance provides that latitude, I think that would be.
Well, hopefully the situation that we dealt with today is somewhat unique and will not be allowed any. Because if this happens again, I would say that the course provider didn't do their job, and we shouldn't be giving that latitude. And again, I know it's unfair to the person taking the course, but the course provider has to have some way of making sure that everybody who is registered can take part.
Yeah.
And I think that's, again, something we could put in instructions when we send it out to the providers.
Correct.
That say you have to cut it off in time so that, that situation, however we want to word it, that situation wouldn't happen.
Yeah. Well, and again, it was a unique, I've never heard of it happening before,
right.
But the reality is the person did not take a portion of the course, and we're allowing them to get credit for it. And I
but
hope
we
we don't
won't do it
repeat
in the
that
future.
Correct.
I just foresee that, as things roll out, there may be unique circumstances like today, something may pop up, power went out, whatever it may be, that these, circumstances, so long as the guidance has the flexibility to provide, a workaround, I guess. If somebody was in full attendance and just missed the polling question on even if they were there full 8 hours and they had to, pop out, whatever the reason, that there is at least a means for us to bridge gaps that come up.
Right. I mean, another simple one that might come up is my internet went out for briefly.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah, and we can once, I mean, that's something we can deal with, you know, any FAQ we need to issue for any issues in the amendments, we can, you know, work on that once we've decided, you know, once the amendments are approved. And then get that to be posted on our website and also to provide to all the course providers.
And
So
just
the-
it looks like the language in D too is I mean it's fairly straightforward, but doesn't specify all. I mean, it doesn't say all. It says completed the polling questions that were presented.
I changed that language on purpose to make it a little less clear. Like I didn't want to. I think before it said completed all the polling questions that were presented. Or answered all, so I changed it to completed so that it would give us more flexibility of defining what completed means.
Exactly. I like it how it's
Yes.
worded currently. Yes.
I do too. I like the change. So I'm in favor of the language as it is right now.
And was there some discussion about restricting when somebody could sign up for a live webinar, or if you want to? I'd be cautious about that, because some course providers might be able to handle somebody registering 30 minutes before a class, and that's revenue that.
Yeah, you can't get into that.
Yeah, I think twice about that.
No, I think the language in the guidance would just say that the provider has to ensure that there is time between the signing up and getting them into the class. You don't specify. You just put that, and it's in guidance so that it's clear that that's what is expected.
Like a reminder, yes, that we think it's important that if you're gonna allow somebody to sign up for the last minute, they're actually gonna be able to get in. I think we can definitely remind them that.
It really is the onus should be on the course provider.
Right.
So the edit on the next page, 28, will not be.
Same thing.
Same thing, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I won't
Those
include
were the two
those. Yeah,
spots.
that was it.
Okay.
So I guess then I can talk more generally, like maybe I'll pull up like the background document. And talk about globally what the changes are. And if anybody has comments on any of them, they can raise them.
Do you want to circle back on the exam challenge or exam reviews? I know last time we took it out.
Oh, the only other thing that we talked about last time, which is in this newest version, is there seemed to be a consensus to remove the regulation that allowed applicants to come in and do an exam review and see what they got wrong and to make a challenge. So that I removed that regulation in this draft.
Good.
Okay. So the overview of the description of the proposed amendments, one, what we just talked about, eliminating exam reviews and challenges. I removed 309 CMR 3.048. The next broad category of changes is reducing the number of credits needed to renew a license. So instead of 48 credits every 3 years, and those people now need 36 if we go forward with this proposal. And to get a 90-day extension, instead of needing 12 credits to ask for that, you would need 9. The next category of changes is a simplification of the types of continuing education credits needed to renew. And whereas now you need 8 regulatory, 12 DEP, and the remainder technical. The proposal in these amendments is for an LSP to get 9 DEP credits and the remainder in non-DEP courses. So we would eliminate regulatory and technical credits in total, so those definitions would come out of the regulations. And then we would amend definition of continuing education to clarify that board approved courses either have to enhance an LSP's technical ability or understanding of regulatory requirements. The next broad category of amendments is allowing continuing education credits to be earned outside a renewal period to count toward the LSP's next renewal in some situations, including the proposals include allowing an LSP to apply up to 6 continuing education credits earned during the last 6 months of a license renewal period toward their next renewal, provided those credits weren't applied to the previous renewal. LSPs whose license have lapsed because they didn't have enough credits to renew could utilize up to 12 credits earned during the lapse period, as long as those credits weren't used toward the previous renewal that ended the lapse. LSPs who qualified for an 90-day extension may apply any credits earned during that extension period toward their next renewal, as long as those credits weren't used toward the renewal for which the LSP received the 90-day extension. And the board clarifies that in no case may credits from any one course be split between earlier and later renewals. And also the board proposed to amend the regulation that allows applicants who've been approved to take the exam to utilize credits earned by taking board approved courses toward their first license renewal, to clarify that any credits earned between being approved and passing the exam, they can only count 12 credits earned during that period. Other changes, updated requirements for online continuing ed courses. So here it's clarifying the new requirements for these types of courses, including definitions for live webinars and on-demand courses. Among the new requirements would be for live webinars, the organization sponsoring the course will include polling questions at periodic intervals, and monitor that attendees complete the questions. And for on-demand courses, the organization sponsoring the course will include an assessment of learning that the course attendee must pass with a score of at least 70% in order to get credit, and the organization must allow the attendee to retake the assessment of learning until the attendee achieves a score of at least 70%. Also, course providers will now need to retain documentation for a minimum of 5 years. This documentation including attendance records demonstrating that attendees of live webinars completed polling questions, and people taking on-demand courses passed the assessment of learning. And amongst the proposals is also a new regulation allowing the board to audit or request information from any course provider or sponsoring organization. And if the board determines that a provider or sponsoring organization isn't meeting the standards set forth in the regs, the board could deny approval of future courses offered by that provider or sponsoring organization. The next category of amendments is to reflect that the board now accepts electronic submissions and electronic payments. So wherever the language wasn't clear through the regs that we do that, that's been changed. And then there were a few miscellaneous amendments. I can do those, there are not that many of them. So amending the definition of recognized educational institution, because some of the language that we had was outdated and didn't reflect how educational institutions are now accredited. Amending the annual fee regulation to underscore that both active LSPs and LSPs on inactive status have to pay the annual fee. Amend the petition for waiver to allow applicants as well as licensees to make waiver requests, which we've seen in the past. So this now that it's clear that and the regs allow applicants to make those waiver requests. Amend the application regs to clarify that the applicant shall have educational institutions forward transcripts and other documentation to the board, rather than the applicant supplying the information directly, and to change to require educational institutions to submit official rather than original transcripts, to clarify that we will accept and would like electronic versions of transcripts. Amend the submission requirements for advisory rulings to to say that we don't need a request in writing with 11 copies since now everything is electronic. And we replaced all references to gender in the regulations to use genderless language. So that is an overview of all of the proposed amendments. I don't know if anybody has any comments on any of those.
One thing that, sorry, go ahead.
You started.
Under the, language about applying credits towards the next renewal period, so we say within the last 6 months for LSPs, I was wondering if, would we want a similar standard for the folks that have taken that have been approved to take the exam and pass the exam, like if someone passed the exam on their third try, that course could have been taken a year and a half ago, theoretically, so we want to have the same standard, so it has to be within like 6 months of passing the exam.
I think
You mean
that's
6
good
months
to
of
have,
being
make them
approved?
consistent.
No, 6 months of passing. Is what I'm saying. Because if someone's approved to take the exam, but they don't pass the exam until then that course that they took theoretically could have been a year and a half old by the time they pass the exam. We want those folks to be able to carry those credits.
Oh, okay, so you mean like, so say they passed the exam, any credits they took within 6 months, 6 months prior to passing that exam?
That way it'd be a similar
Yes.
standard to the LSP.
What do people think about that?
I think it's
I
good to
like
make it
that. I think that's
consistent.
important.
Where though, when they sign up for a course, they might not know it's gonna be applicable to their first renewal.
That's fine, discouraging people from taking courses.
It might help them pass the exam because they'll learn something on the exam, you know? I do think that's important. It shouldn't be left open. I think within 6 months of passing the exam, that's fine.
I mean, I think the existing regs say that applicants that have been approved can take classes, right, and have them applied. So this change limits the number of credits they can apply, like before it was open-ended. So there's already some constriction of the ability to do that, but there is no time restriction. So if you want to add, so the proposal is to say they can only apply up to 12, and those 12 have to be earned within 6 months of them passing the test.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like it would make sense if we're saying LSPs can only carry forward credits that they earn within 6 months of their renewal period. Why wouldn't we have a similar standard?
Right.
Yes.
It seems fair. It seems to be more consistent than just a blanket statement.
What do other people feel? Is that
That's fine.
consensus?
Yeah,
Sounds
that seems reasonable.
And also on the 6 credits carrying over, is that from a different state, different regulations, or is that the 36 divided by 6? Over 3 years, and the thought is that you're getting 6 credits every 6 months. What's the 6 based on?
That sounds like it would be a good assumption.
Not too many, not too
36.
few.
That's right.
12 credits a year, you get 6 months, so it's 6.
Okay.
I don't know where that came from.
There's your answer.
Going with it.
Otherwise, it looks great. Looking forward to moving this on.
Anybody want to bring up anything else?
And it says earned during the last 6 months of the period.
All right, Diane, did you have some specific things you wanted to look at?
There was one little thing in page 33, appendix B in the table. The first item has 1 contiguous hours. I think that can be shifted just to 1 hour, like the one below it.
Where?
Minimum course length.
Page
Appendix
33.
B, page 33, Appendix B.
Oh, I see. So the existing language where it says 1 contiguous hours and then 1 hour below.
Below it, it said 1 hour. They should both say 1 hour. Probably. Does 1 contiguous hours mean?
Yeah, that's weird. I
It's
don't know
just
why
a-
that's different.
Yeah. Let's see. Discussion. I think the only other one was just a discussion of whether we should allow people to look at exam, come back and look at exam questions. When I saw it written out, it just looked more stark. Where is that? I'm trying to find my comment.
Oh, where was the regulation that allowed that?
Where was the change in the regulations that proposed?
304, 3.04.
Overall in agreement with the deletion.
Page 17.
So taking that subsection 8 out. Page 17.
Yeah, it's
struck out.
Terry, this is Greg. Was that discussed in a meeting, in a board meeting, or was that
Yes.
just the committee?
In the full board meeting last month.
Okay, all right. I thought it was just the committee, but yeah, no, I certainly agree with it.
Did you find it?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I think I looked at this and then also was looking at the description in in one of your other documents.
Yeah, I had to
Impact.
describe the reason for it, and I must say
That's
for
what
this
it
one, I
was.
don't know if I used the best language, and
Yeah.
I'm certainly open to any edits on any of those forms, like if you think that there is a better way to describe the rationale for it. This one I had a little trouble, I must say.
Yeah, I think just because it seemed like it wasn't. I think it was the security question. You described it as one of our concerns being exam security.
Yeah.
And I wondered if that was, if security really was an issue, if you're letting people see questions they've already seen before.
No, it's the number, it's security, because one, I will tell you, the more you see the exam, the more you can remember to tell somebody else, number one, of what the questions are, but it's also exam security just for your future taking if you didn't pass. You've now seen more questions more times than than somebody else taking the exam at the same time you do.
I can read what I put like in the draft background document as the rationale for this edit, and people can, I don't know if people have already read that and have edits, but I can read it and then we can discuss, because I myself wasn't sure if this was the best way to say it. So I said, the board proposes to delete 309 CMR 3.048 that allows an applicant who failed the LSP examination to review the questions the applicant answered incorrectly and to challenge one or more questions for which the applicant's answer was marked incorrect. The board has been administering the LSP examination since 1995 and believes that at this point in time, challenges to specific exam questions are unlikely to result in significant improvement to the quality of the examination. The board also believes potential value to an applicant in reviewing the questions the applicant got wrong is outweighed by the potential threat to the security of the examination questions. I don't know if you want to say that differently. That was my best.
I also think,
I think it's fine.
Did you want to like say something different than like security exam? I mean, I like I said, I kind of was, I didn't know the best way to say it, so.
Yeah. I guess I'm kind of
integrity.
yeah, I don't know what the better.
I think it is a security issue for sure. It's not the only issue. I think the other thing is, I believe the practice of allowing people to see what they got wrong is inconsistent with every other similar licensing program.
Oh, I did also say the board notes that neither the Connecticut Licensed Environmental Profession Program nor the New Jersey Licensed Site Remedial Professional Program, the two state programs similar to the Massachusetts LSP program, allow applicants to review examination questions that answered incorrectly.
Oh, okay.
So I do point that out too.
Yeah.
And I did double check that that's true, that neither of them do.
Okay, I guess that's fine.
And these documents may, as they go up the chain and are reviewed, they may have other potential edits that'll come back to us and say, this is what the powers of the board would like to change.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Is there a statistic we want to add? I mean, what's the percentage of people that pass the test without ever having to challenge or look? I mean, out of the hundreds of people who pass the test, I mean.
Would we be able to come up with that statistic easily?
Well, nobody that passes looks, so that's kind of weird. It's the number of people that have looked and managed to successfully challenge, I think, is the question. And it turns out that the people that do that end up passing, they only really get one successful challenge out of all the questions they look at. They only were 1 point away generally, because one successful challenge that is accepted gets them over the line. That's the real question.
This isn't about challenge, though. We're not saying that people can't challenge. We're saying that people can't look at their questions.
Well, it's both actually.
Well, so both.
Yeah.
There's no way you can challenge without looking at the questions.
Right.
Maybe as it goes up the ladder further, but if they want something more robust.
If anybody
that's what we
cares.
consider that.
I just can see people pushing back on, sort of why is the board so confident that their questions are always completely right? There's no other answers, because I knew how in this field, there's a lot that has gray areas. I mean,
They can push back when they review the draft regs.
Right,
Comment on it.
right, absolutely, absolutely, and then we'll issue a response to comments
Right.
document. And we can change our mind too. I mean, sometimes the, agencies change their mind based on the comments they get.
But here's the thing, every other licensing exam has the same issue, and they do not let you look at the exam.
Do we know if the PE?
It's a nationwide test. I mean, none of those tests have that option. The closest ones are probably the LEP exam and the LSRP exam, and I know for certain that you can't do it for the LEP exam.
Can't do it for you.
And yes, there are questions that I would like to have looked. I mean, I passed, so it wasn't an issue. But when somebody else didn't, I was made me more aware of it. And it's like I've done the exam for the LEP exam, and yeah, there are some questions I don't really like, and I don't know that it's the best question. But the reality is, you don't get to challenge it, and there's enough right. It's unfortunate for the people that are 1 point away. That's the problem. But
I'm sorry.
We just can't.
I was going to add that I like the way it's stated, but I'll add two more just quick facts to this. I think Matt or Chris, following one of the exam committee meetings recently, you actually did have the statistics about how often these have been challenged and how successful those are. And in fact, in the last few years, it's actually very rare that somebody has succeeded in challenging and overturning a question. And that speaks to how long many of these questions have been on the books and how well vetted they are. The second point I wanted to make, if you want to add a little more comment, is that a typical challenger has seen X number of questions, because they don't get to see one question, they get to see every question they missed. So they get to see 20 questions they missed that will prepare them for the next time they take the test. And that creates a very unfair opportunity for them, challenging the integrity of the exam. But I like the way it's written, but if folks felt like they needed more, those are two additional things.
Yep. So I'm in agreement the way that it's been edited and rewritten.
Okay, do people want to talk more? Do you want to make a motion to accept the proposals as is? Does anybody want to talk about any of the draft forms that accompany the red line regulations? Otherwise, we can
I think
make a
you've done a
motion.
great job, and I'd make a motion that we accept the materials that you've prepared.
I'll second that.
second,
Jamie, did you have something you wanted to say?
Maybe this is not a non-issue, but just one thing that jumped out at me when I was looking at this issue about auditing courses. It says, gives the board authority to deny approval of future courses. Do we have the authority to revoke existing courses as well? It's like, if we've really found a situation where a provider like completely failed to their record-keeping obligations, I mean.
Oh, that's a good point.
What them offering previously approved course.
That's a good point, because I guess I was thinking that any requests they would make would be future ones, but that they had some that were already
Approved,
on today.
many times.
Yeah, that's a good change. I can make an edit, to that reg to clarify existing and future course offerings.
Makes sense. Okay.
But we wouldn't revoke approval for the person, like we audited, we're in the room with other people or online with other people taking it, but that one, wouldn't that approval have to stand that first time it was offered? You couldn't revoke it after the fact, right? We could only
I'm
revoke.
not suggesting revoking people's credits. I'm saying their ability to offer in the future.
Yes, that's what I mean. That's what it needs to say. So we'll revoke approval so it can't be offered again.
Right.
Right.
I can clarify, say that like any like that basically say that the sponsor organization or the course provider can't offer any classes going forward for the board. Like I can change the language to clarify that. Okay, I mean, so there's one thing, we talked about a few minor edits. I could make those minor edits, bring stuff back next month. Or you could make a motion to approve everything contingent that I make the edits that we discussed today. And then I can move it up the chain as soon as I've done that. So it's up to you whether you want to see it again.
I believe that we should do that. So I say so moved.
Wait, do it.
As amended.
We should approve what we have written with the minor edits that were made today and move the process forward.
second,
David,
Yes.
Gail,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Craig,
yes,
Patrick,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
and Diane, yes.
And I would like to thank Terry for all the work she's put into this.
Yes. I second that.
My pleasure.
While we're waiting for this day, I don't.
So that's it for our regulations. Let's see, so personnel budget and fees is next.
I have no new information on any of those fronts, so.
Okay, the next item is status of board member vacancies. So we now have 2 vacancies as of after this meeting, both environmental seats. The other one that's been open for a long time is still held up in the governor's office somewhere. Terry checked on it a week or 2 ago.
A couple weeks ago.
And
it was in a little glitch where they had sent the wrong email for the person somehow, I don't know how, but we rectified that, so hopefully that will move along.
Yep. And so hopefully we'll have that filled soon. And we'll be on the search for another. So if anyone can think of anyone who might fit for the environmental seat, please send them our way. Patrick, if you know anyone who'd love to take your place.
Give it some thought.
Oh, and I do have a related issue since Patrick is leaving. Patrick was on the CRT for one of the old cases.
Yes.
So for that case, we're gonna need a new CRT non-LSP member. I don't know if anybody's interested in volunteering, and then we could get you the information after the meeting to see, but make sure you're not recused out.
I can do it since the other one is just about wrapped up, so I actually could do it if, because it's obviously a non-LSP that you need.
We'll call you or something to give you the name to make sure you're okay.
Okay.
This is an old one. We've already had a meeting with the LSP before Patrick. So this has been hanging around for a long time.
Wow.
Yes, Greg's the only one with that historical. No.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, next item is next meeting schedule. So we typically don't have a board meeting in December or July, so we're assuming no board meeting next month. But we haven't set them yet for the coming year. Is everyone happy with the current, I believe, second Tuesday of the month at noon?
Yes.
Yep.
No, July and December. Then we'll come up with those dates and we can send everybody a schedule around and put it on the website.
Yep.
So the next meeting will be this beginning of month. Tuesday in January.
Would be. I don't know what date that would be.
14th, it looks like.
Yep.
I may or may not be here for that. I might be in Spain.
Oh.
I'm going to Spain and Portugal for 2 weeks in January.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Well, then maybe we should make a different date for January then, because we need you as a secretary to do it.
Mandatory in person.
They get internet in Spain, don't they?
I have no problem. Actually, I would be asleep in that, so I have no problem.
You can't even,
No,
right?
you're
Like,
not
they don't
allowed.
let You leave the country, you can't even get into your email,
Oh, that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Not allowed.
which is kind of nice, like, oh, sorry, I can't check email.
Right.
Well, the first week of January is December and January, and then there's the second week. Are you gone those 2 weeks or the first full weeks of January?
The first full weeks of January. Right now, I'm coming back the 13th. What I'm worried about is if anything is delayed and I'm not get back here by the 14th.
Yeah,
That's my only problem.
should we have a different, should we do the third Tuesday just in January or?
Or have it later, like maybe do it on a Thursday that week.
Either one is fine with me.
Yeah, either.
I'd say it's the following Tuesday, just so everybody's got the same.
Agreed with Jamie.
Tuesday
Yeah.
schedules.
Tuesdays are better.
Me too.
Tuesday.
Yeah, that way I'll have one less stressful thing about worrying about
Yeah,
getting back in the country.
Yeah, absolutely.
That sounds like an
So
option.
the 21st, right? We're talking about the
Yeah.
21st, the day after Martin Luther King Day.
I think that's a week before.
Week before.
No, the first full week of January.
On my calendar, that Martin Luther King Day is January 20th.
Right, and the first, the 2 full weeks. So what day are we was it originally planned? The 14th, right?
The second.
Right.
And so now it's the 21st.
21st.
Which is fine, I mean, yesterday was a holiday for the state too, so.
Yeah, so it's fine. Okay.
Okay, so the next meeting will be on the 21st of January, and then thereafter, it'll switch to the Tuesday of the second full week of each month, except for July and December.
That's good.
Are we
All
sending
right.
those out as like calendar invites, just so we have a placeholder in everybody's calendar? And I
Yeah,
did
we can do that, yeah.
That would be
I think
great.
that's Natasha normally does that, right, Natasha? So I think we can definitely.
Yeah, I usually do it a month at a time, or I could do them all 10 at once, just to have it on there. So
It would
it's
be
up to you
great to do
guys
it.
what you prefer.
Get them on the
Good.
calendar.
Get them on the,
Yeah,
ca- all
get
the time.
them all in.
Thank you.
Welcome now before it's too late.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm glad we checked, because, yeah,
I had totally forgot about that too.
Yeah.
The Tuesday meeting. Yes, a late graduation gift for my son, so.
oh, awesome.
Nice.
That's fantastic, Trey. That's
All right, Terry, you don't have anything else, do you?
Nope.
Or, yeah,
Nope, lots of good food.
all right, we will adjourn then at 1:16.
See you next year. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye all.
Happy holidays. Thanks, Patrick. Take care.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Pastor.
Good luck, Patrick.